How does our work differ from conventional therapy? Conventional therapy often thinks of manipulation and training the child or strengthening the child. But we are eliciting the native learning process in the child. That means we help the child to make new connections in their brain and nervous system that they can't yet find on their own. And we do that by using movement, intentional movements through our embodied presence. Think about how a neurotypical child learns. They are in the first weeks and months of life on the floor, if they are given the space, to experience themselves through movement in their environment, on the floor together with their family. They develop in gravity on the floor through movement, and that's how they learn. That's how the brain gathers information about who they are and where they are in space. And that's how they become more and more differentiated in their movements until they manage to, let's say, come on all fours or start to crawl. But that doesn't happen from one day to the other. No, there's a lot that happens in that development. And nobody tells the baby, now we're training to crawl, now we're training to roll over. No, that's not how it works, right? They do it because they feel themselves and they explore their own movement on the floor in their environment. But we work with a child with special needs. And every child is unique. And every child has their idiosyncratic impasses. And we have the ability through our embodied self, through our internal knowledge, that we can help the child from where they are, not where you think or the therapist thinks where they should be. That is the key. We need to feel what is helping the child at the moment so they can come to their next step. There is no recipe or rigid protocol. We look at each child's uniqueness in every unfolding moment. We help the child develop daily neuroplasticity. So what I do, or what my colleagues do, we have to experience ourselves and we have to feel and understand through movement ourselves how the child learns and how the child can change. That takes our effort and commitment to do that. Then we learn to translate the knowledge that we learn through our own embodied movements into our hands. And that is usually not done with conventional therapy. And I know that because I come from that background myself. So we often see parents with their children who have not been successful, who have not seen enough changes for their children with conventional therapy. And the reason for that is often these therapies don't evoke the native learning process in the child. You cannot do it to the child. You cannot push the child or train the child. You cannot make the child stronger if the child's brain doesn't understand what message are you trying to convey. For example, a child with dystonia. Dystonia often shows in massive twisting in the same direction, but you cannot manipulate the muscles to stop doing what they're doing. You have to teach the brain. You have to communicate with the brain through movement so that child learns not to have this uncontrolled twisting motion. Same with low tone or high tone. You cannot teach the muscle per se or change the muscles. You need to change the brain. You need to teach the brain. So instead, we ask, how can I really help the child that they can make in their own nervous system and brain, make new connections? Because they are the only ones who can make those new connections, not the therapist. So we are eliciting the native learning process in the child through brain plasticity, through intentional movements. that we feel in ourselves. That's why I call it experiential movement, because we can ourselves, as a parent, as a caregiver, as a therapist, experience in ourselves what it means to move, to learn through movement, and as a result, to differentiate each child's unique developmental trajectory.